You're listening to the LaRocque Life Podcast, where hosts Michael and Laura explore relationships, adventure, freedom, and just some all-around real and raw conversations. Drawing from their 17 years together with a bit of sarcasm, humor, tears, a few and lots of love. They deep dive into the male and female perspective on relationships and navigate the highs and lows of life together. Sit back, grab your love mug, and let's get into today's conversation.
All right, episode 54. What are we talking about, babe?
Okay, well, we're going to recap something that happened last night.
Ooh.
I was like cliffhanger.
I need a sexy button.
Gotta engage people right off the bat. No, was I telling you on our way down here that we were binging last night, and so feeling super tired and exhausted today.
Yeah.
And people are gonna have no idea what I'm actually gonna say, but we stayed up till 2:00 last night binge watching
Scenes from a Marriage.
Yeah, I forgot the name there.
Yeah.
So it was crazy because yesterday we just were playing with the kids and visiting my sister-in-law, and she brought it up randomly, and she's like, you guys would probably like it. I only watched the first episode, and I was kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever. Maybe I'll check it out. And we ended up checking it out, and it's like a mini series, right? So is it on HBO?
HBO, yeah, and there's five episodes. They're like an hour long kind of thing.
Yeah. So we binge watched for 5 hours last night.
Put a solid shift in. Yeah.
I've never, I don't remember doing that since binge watching The Sopranos in 2010.
Oh yeah.
11, maybe. I don't know. All day Saturday. That's all we do before we had a kid. Now we can only binge watch in the evenings, which we don't. Well, I don't really watch any TV because what did we say? I was 6 hours past my bedtime last night.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm used to that. I always do. I stay up late. I'm a night owl, but yeah, I was like, holy God.
I know. So typically I'm in bed by 10, and then Lennox usually wakes up around 6:30. But so we went to bed at 2. Lennox called me at 4. So I just woke up. I was like, holy, do I ever just feel drunk? Just being in such a, waking up from such a deep sleep. And then he was up for the day at 6:30. So I got 4.5 hours of sleep, and I don't really do well with that less of sleep. So anyways, today was just really funny because I was like, gosh, I feel like I'm hungover and I just napped all day and we really didn't do nothing. I'm just wearing sweatpants and no makeup and just blech. But point being, okay, so we weren't going to watch it, and then we watched it, and after watching the first episode, I was like, okay, well, we need to watch the next one, and then after that one, I was like, well, we need to watch the next one, and then the next one, and I'm like, well, we can't just leave the last one now, so it's 1:00 in the morning, and I generally do not stay awake through things, so that's, I guess, a good indication as to how interesting it was.
Yeah, if we could have a rating scale for movies or shows or anything, if Laura can stay awake, it's worth watching. So put that out to everybody.
Well, in my view.
Yeah.
Okay, so Scenes from a Marriage is what it's called. It's on HBO. It's a mini series. There's 5 episodes. Well, what should we do? Because we're going to have to kind of share what it's about, but we can't obviously give it away for people who haven't watched it. If you haven't watched it, I think you should watch it if you're in a relationship. Also, completely understand that there are a trigger warning. If I don't really know how to say it,
no, there's just a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
It's very real, and it's not like most TV shows where they show marriages or relationships just kind of whatever, and then they skip past and have a supper, and then they skip past to the next day. They get deep in a lot of conversations and a lot of shit, right? And a lot of it's real, just in the stuff that
super real, yeah.
We deal with, which we read about, everything that we're around. It hits a lot of those points. Holy shit, this is happening, right?
Yeah, it's the realest creation of something that I have seen, if ever, or if not for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, yeah, what should we? It's follows a couple who go through some deep stuff.
Yeah.
And then it deals highs and lows. It's an emotional roller coaster, right? There's a lot a lot going on. And then the ending isn't at all like what most of us would want, like a fairy tale ending. Again, very real. But also I'm not going to ruin that for people who want to watch it, because you could binge watch it in 5 hours. No big deal. Yeah.
And it goes through, it's a lot. It's set in that like age range of, you know, late 30s, early 40s kind of stuff, right? So right when everyone's hitting that, I wouldn't call it midlife crisis, but just where you're reevaluating your life, where you're at career-wise, what you've given up, where you're at family-wise, kids, all that kind of stuff really hits at that age. And it's hard because there is things that fall off the list. There's a list I'm assuming most people have, right? With kids, family, career, wealth, savings, all this stuff, right? House. And there is things along the way that some people have to sacrifice, or some things get knocked off that list to create other ones, or, you know, career. Sometimes you put your career ahead of your family, or vice versa, or whatever that looks like. But things will never be what that list looks like when you first make it in your head, or if you write it down. So it's good. It's a great show, and showing that it's, these are the things that happen, and these are some of the stuff that goes on. And I just like how real it was, to be honest.
This is some of the stuff that goes on.
Along those lines.
Not these are some of the stuff.
Well, you know, I don't read good.
Oh, sorry. I'm just really tired, so I have to make fun of you, I guess.
It's okay. I'm used to it, I guess.
I'm not making fun of you. I'm just correcting you. There's a difference.
It's fair. You know what you got. Scene from our marriage. Here you go. Scenes from a marriage. No, it's all good. But no, it's very interesting. It's awesome. I liked it. I like watching it with you. I'm good at binge watching a lot of stuff, but usually I watch it by myself. Then I sit there and like, Mike, that was a really good show. That was awesome, wasn't it? So at least now I have someone to talk about it with. Right.
Okay. So let's dive into it. I mean, we're going to give some of it away, obviously, through talking about this, but if it's intriguing you, definitely go and watch it. Watch it with your partner. One thing I thought is that it sparked some really interesting conversation, which we're going to share, but it just made me want to like really, really check in with you even more and be like, okay, ask some kind of deeper questions and feel around where we're at. But like when I was watching it last night, I was like, holy shit, is this ever real? And we need to talk about this, because this is what goes on in many, many relationships where things just aren't really talked about. You know, we all come to a relationship with our own stuff, quote unquote, right? Whether that's, you know, beliefs, thoughts, habits, generational stuff, and whether we don't feel seen, we don't feel heard, we don't feel understood, we don't feel like we can actually ask for what we want or what we need, and we just stuff it under the rug. We might feel unworthy compared to our partner, or unworthy of a loving partner, like just so many things that each of us unconsciously typically bring into a relationship. And it's all fine and dandy in the beginning of a relationship when there's that excitement of the new fresh stuff and you're going through all of the steps, right?
Oh yeah. And you can overlook a lot of that stuff because you're still in that honeymoon phase or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
But as the years pass, and for some it might be a year, for others it might be 10, 15 years, right? For us, it was, I guess, 3 years of marriage, but like by that point, 9 years of being together, where a lot of stuff that was unconscious was no longer tolerable anymore. So when I was watching it, I was just like, this is so powerful. And I love that this is being put out there, because so many couples are just navigating through life doing what like they think is the right thing to do, or, you know, the societal or the cultural way of doing things, without actually really being conscious of why they're doing it, or why they're behaving that way, or why, like, really why we even are the way we are, right? Like, am I just this way because my family was? Am I just this way because of trauma from my past? Like, and really going for the things we want. But I just, in watching it, my overall message, and I have notes we can touch on some different points from it, that like there was just so much. Maybe we'd have to do multiple episodes on this, which we won't, but this was just, it gave me a lot of content ideas, because I was like, oh yeah, this is all the things we work on with people. But my overall thing from it was that people in relationship need to be proactive and work on their stuff, even though like you don't even feel you have stuff, just self-awareness and learning tools and skills, filling up your tool belt in order to communicate better, deeper, broader, right? Before something happens.
Oh yeah. Cause a lot of it's like once that, all those things just keep filling up, and it's just going to burst into one big thing that's not repairable, right? If you repair it along the way, you can get through it, but typically it just saves up, and then it's like one big fucking whatever that looks like, and it's really tough to come back from. So you're right. 100%. A lot of those tools need to be used, need to be thought of, need to be talked about. And just little things like in my head, that's what a relationship is. Right. And this show was perfect example of just some like passive aggressive, not really talking about much, agreeing to things that you don't really want to agree with, but you agree with them just because it saves a fucking hour-long conversation, or it saves an argument, or it saves...
Or doing it because you think that's what the other person wants.
Yeah, that's probably really the biggest one.
And then they're thinking that it's what you want, so then they don't.
Yeah, exactly, right? Just common miscommunication. That's all it is. But and it shows like massively, right? And there's so many of those things. They're like, well, I thought you wanted to. I thought you wanted to. And then, I mean, so many times we've done that in the past, right? And it's silly when you look back on it, but when you're in it, you're like, oh fuck, this is just what we do, right? Mm-hmm. And that's just another pattern that people get into. Mm-hmm. I know myself, I was into that a lot because I was always trying to spend time making up for fucking being drunk all weekend or whatever I did, right? So then we'd go through that pattern of whatever. I'd be trying to make it up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday would be great. But in that Wednesday, Thursday, I'm sure I just try not to rock the boat so I could, save face or save whatever. So I would just agree to things or just make it like, yeah, sure, if you want to do that, which again, you lose all your like masculinity or lose any like decision making or anything. And then you're the one just fucking steering the ship, which doesn't help. But again, just agreeing to things just to agree to them so that just carry on, right? Without having, they're not arguments or anything, just like difficult conversations and real conversations and tough choices. And there is sacrifices and things that people have to make. And when you just agree to things, it fucking just spirals out of control. Maybe not right there, but it will, right? Eventually. Over
time. Like you said, it could be filling that bucket and then it's that one thing that just tips it all over. But I like that you touched on the masculinity and the making choices, because that was a big thing in the show as well. She's the breadwinner, right? Like she makes all the money. And he has a job, but he's in academia, which we didn't really even know what that
If you couldn't tell by the earlier comments in my my speaking,
we were like, what does that even mean? Clearly that's not us.
My time in higher education.
So we don't know if he's like a professor or what, but towards the end we find out he writes books, papers.
Well, he's a professor, right? And he lectures and papers and whatever else. Yeah.
So he's more of the homemaker as well. So his job was more lenient, where he could spend more time at home. So he took care of their daughter more, and she worked more out of the home and was gone. And the very first thing you said when it kind of started was like, you're like, this is pissing me off. He's so beta. And I was like, oh, really? And I didn't really recognize it right off the bat, because I was like, but he's also like pretty self-aware and he's affectionate, which those are the things that I was like, I like that. Mm-hmm. But through the second episode where the shit really hits the fan, you can see that obviously that was bothering her because she checked out of the marriage, right? And I mean, obviously I'm going to give away this piece where she ends up having an affair with a man who is definitely a lot more alpha, right?
Well, it was an affair, but like saying just flat out fell in love, right?
Yeah, she fell in love with him.
Affair is an affair, but this
she was like leaving. Yeah. And so this is where the whole like entanglement and enmeshment began. Well, obviously it began way earlier in their relationship, but for us, the viewers, were like, whoa, shit's a lot deeper than you can see from the outside. Which, wait, I'm going to pause right there and say this, because that was something I said to you today where I was like, another reason we need to talk about this is because so many people think, and we were those prime people. So remind me. Remember me.
I'll always remember you.
2 a.m., 4 hours of sleep.
It's fair.
Remind me to come back to the masculinity thing. But I wanted to just dive into this part about how we were talking about like perfectionism and how relationships from the outside look perfect. And because that was ours. Remember when we shared our story back in 2015, I think, I got messages from people that were like, I had no idea you guys looked like you had like all your shit together. And I was like, well, yeah, I was really good at putting on a show for that. Right. And then other people were like, I feel the exact same way. Like I can totally relate. And so I just find it interesting that, you know, I don't know where this expectation started for all of us and society, I guess, but like, that you're supposed to have all your shit together in a relationship, like, and that it's like all roses and butterflies. And I mean, we all know it's not. We know it's not within our own relationships, and we know it's not within our friends, but it's like the elephant in the room, or like just sweep that under the rug and pretend that you don't know. So, but then today I was reading comments on their Instagram page, and there was just like, it was really interesting to me because there were some people that, there was lots of people that were like, holy shit, like this is real. Like I totally related, or I was Mira, or I was Jonathan, like, and relating to a lot of the things because it was very real. And people do have some pretty interesting lives and interesting relationships. But segueing from that is that there was some people who were like, this isn't realistic. This isn't marriage, or she's psycho, or he's not strong, or like, I can't, like, just the comments were, they were rude, but I was thinking, I wonder if that person's actually struggling with this, because typically the first step is to be defensive, right? You're triggered by it because it's generally something that's bothering you. But at the same time, I do know that there are people that haven't experienced anything crazy in a relationship yet. And maybe they never will. Hopefully they never will. And when I say crazy, I use that term lightly because crazy is really relative, right? Like,
oh yeah.
To one person, something may seem absolutely crazy and far-fetched and out there. And to the next person, they're like, oh, that's just my everyday, that's my relationship.
Yeah, that was on fucking Tuesday at 4.
Yeah.
What are we doing tonight?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's different for everyone. But one thing I just wanted to make sure that we touched on is that, like, I know people, I know lots of people that are in some, what may be like coined as fucked up relationships. I mean, I would say our relationship was pretty fucked up in the beginning, or what, 6-7 years ago, or is that 9 years ago? I don't know.
I'm sure it still is fucked up. But anyway.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, it's nothing's ever perfect, but we all have this like idea. But anyways, I was just like, I know people who are going through shit, and I don't want them to think that they're fucked up because they're going through something. Everyone is going through something. Everyone goes through something. No relationship is perfect, even though people make it look like it's perfect on the outside. And so those comments were just kind of an eye opener to me. Like, I just found it interesting that there was so many people who related and thought it was great. And then there was a handful of people that like couldn't relate or just didn't think that that was real. So anyways, I just wanted to say that because, like I said, we work with people. We work with people who are just learning new tools and skills and want to strengthen their relationship. But we've also worked with people who have gone through shit too. And I think, to be honest, unless you actively and proactively work on your relationship, that's kind of where you're headed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then if you, especially like those prime examples of just agreeing to things or just going along kind of status quo, putting on a show or just whatever, not trying to rock the boat, all that'll 100% lead to something, right? And then you just blow up, and especially right around that middle age, like I'm getting there, you know, like it's coming. For like 40 or anywhere in that area, right? And that's where people seem to think that's kind of like, I don't know, I guess middle age, right? But you really start to reevaluate and you're like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not having fun. I'm not who I thought I'd be. I'm not where I want to be. I'm not anything, right? And it all festers from not having open conversations or not having like even just a game plan together, right? Like, you just literally just falling, like letting life happen to you. And it happens in everything, right? Like my career, that's what happened in my career. I just let it kind of happen to me. And then in life, that's the way it was happening, right? It was just like, oh, just drinking and, you know, fighting. And then, you know, we make up, and that was just the pattern. And that was just what I was programmed to do. And that's just what I thought life was. And I wasn't being proactive at it. I just kind of let it fall into place. But it all stemmed from not having those conversations, from not doing any work on myself. Like we talked about that. I was like, literally just thought, you know, this is life. And if you have to work in a relationship, if you have to even work on yourself, it's like, what's the point? But there's so much better on the back end if you do. And it's not like you have to fucking spend hours and hours and hours on this stuff. It's just to be aware of it and then take little steps.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad that you brought up the self-awareness, because that's what I was thinking. Okay, so relationship work is great, learning stuff together, but ultimately it starts with yourself and just becoming aware of why you believe the things you believe, or why you act the way you believe. What do you expect of your partner, and why do you expect that? So all that self-awareness is like really the first step in understanding yourself better, and then having some sort of purpose. I don't even necessarily mean like a life purpose, but like a purpose in that relationship, right? Like, what are we doing? And not allowing it to just go down that path of just happening. I think there is an aspect of like having a plan and leaving space for other things, better things to come in, or the things that you're meant to go through to learn from and grow from. So being open to that. But I think that there's a difference between that and just like, as you were saying, like just, I don't know, I'm just showing up every day, taking whatever comes to me, because we are very powerful beings and we can create a lot of really cool things. And so therefore we can create a really cool relationship and a really cool life with our partner that takes us down this path of continual growth, continual evolution together, and continually falling in love with each other over and over and over again, instead of taking that unresponsive, just like numbed out, distracted route where you fall out of love, if that's the term to use, or you just become so out of touch with each other and with yourself because you're lying to yourself so much by showing up in this relationship and not being happy, that some catastrophic event happens that makes it all crumble.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Generally. So I already said, right, that she had an affair. And I was saying, like, I know people in my life who have had affairs, and one person, well, a couple people specifically were like, I did it because I knew it was the only way out. It was the only like confirmed route out. And other people do it because they've been so unhappy their whole life, or like they don't know how to manage their own things. And maybe they should have been going through therapy or managing their childhood in order to feel loved and feel seen, and not expecting that from their partner. So that's where that self-awareness comes in, right? Like, what do I need to give myself first before I expect it from you? Right. And then it comes to this level of, I don't expect it from you. I like it from you. Like, I don't need you. I want you kind of thing. Right. So, oh God, I just feel like I could talk about this forever.
No, well,
I want to watch that show over and over again, because it's just, the psychology is just like super intriguing to me. But what I wanted to just really like make sure you took from that is that it's really important to be aware that you can create a relationship that is happy and full of adventure and love. And you can do that consciously instead of just allowing that subconscious path to play out, and you get what you get. Yes,
it is. And you have to have those conversations. There was a really good point in that, is one of the last episodes, but he was, the guy, Jonathan.
Yeah.
John, he he's having a conversation with his mom because his dad just passed away or whatever, and they're literally fucking burying the guy, and they're driving back and whatever, but they're having a conversation, and it was like everything's through your eyes, right? Or like through my eyes, and that's what I picture, that's what I see, and that's a story I make up. Story I make up in my relationship, story made up about my life, story I make up about my career, story I make up about anything. And he was explaining to his mom what his mom's relationship was with her husband or his dad, right? It's like, oh, this is what I seen, so this must be what your relationship was. He was saying that he was such a hard ass, and she was scared to make any noise in a relationship or make any like decisions, or never seen them talking. And she's had to stop him. She's like, no, like we talked a lot, and you don't understand your dad like the way I did, right? And on and on and on. But he was always thinking that that's what a relationship was, or that's what he's seen, and he was such a hard ass and all this stuff. But that was through his eyes, right? And you can't do that to people. You can't do that in your own relationship. You can't do that with your kids. You can't, like, you have to,
like with your partner. Yeah.
Like you have to have those conversations. That would have been easy talks to have with his mom as he was like adulthood, and as you're growing up, or as you're going on, like just to find out more about the guy, or have those conversations with his dad while he was alive. Like, I talk about that a lot, like with my dad, right? I didn't know the guy really. Like, I mean, I know him, but I didn't know him. So I didn't know his like dreams, hopes, anything like that, or anything about him. Right. And just from what I seen in the relationship, in my parents' relationship, like, I didn't know anything behind the scenes. I didn't see them talking, like really talking. I didn't see them really affectionate to each other ever. Right. But again, that's through my eyes. Maybe my siblings seen that. Maybe like I could just be making shit up in my own head. Like, I don't know. Right. So it's interesting. And then you play out those same fucking patterns in a relationship. But having those conversations with my mom now, like we're on a very, I guess it's different level. Like we just talk a lot, right? Or I can have conversations with her like that, and then being open with you and having conversations, and we can, like, you just nip shit in the ass before anything crazy happens. And again, they're not easy conversations. You might you'll get answers that you don't want, or like, you make up all rosy in your head, but at least they're real, and that's what's happening, and that's what's really happening, not the fucking story you're making up in your head, right? I guess that's what I kind of did that even with my job, right? I was making up stories in my head for the last 3-4 years about how whatever was happening. But then as I was leaving, or now I'm gone, but as I left, is talking with all these different people, like, oh, I don't think you've seen what I seen or we seen, right? And I was like, oh, okay. Makes me feel good now, and now I'll carry that on to our endeavors moving forward. But
I told you that over and over again.
Yeah, but that's
you
the
have
thing.
A mental illness. Or no, what did I say?
Can't even read good.
You have something wrong with your head. I can't remember when you won that leadership award.
Yeah,
it's like
something wrong with you.
Call me. There's something wrong with you. Honesty.
Yeah, honesty is the best. But again, that's what it is, right? So you just have to have those conversations, as hard as they are. It's just hard for men, like, especially, I don't know, maybe our generation, or just, and definitely the generations before, you just didn't talk about that shit. But
yeah,
just to have those conversations, but be open-minded about it. And it doesn't make you any less anything. Doesn't make you less of a man. Doesn't make you less. It's going to make you stronger. It's going to make your relationship stronger. It'll give you a better vision of where you're headed. And it'll go right back into masculinity of, you'll have a better vision, you'll have your purpose. And then from that purpose, you'll gain so much more. And then you get to be that masculine man that you're made to be, that you're meant to be. And you can be the leader in your relationship, be the leader for your wife, be the leader for your kids.
Oh yeah. Cause that was another thing we were going to come back to just quickly, was that masculinity part where, they seemed content and happy, and that he thought that role was awesome, but she clearly didn't, because she was not attracted to him anymore. She fell in love with another man. And so, I do agree that the feminine, or not agree, I just think that the feminine and the masculine energies are super important to understand within relationships as well. They're not everything to do with a relationship, but they are an important aspect to understand, and this dynamic to have to create polarity and to create passion and attraction as well. Because, I mean, do you think that human beings are really like meant to be monogamous?
It's a tough one. A lot of people say no, and a lot of people like going into a lot of conversations now. It's like with that whole blue pill, beta, red pill, alpha, all these different things, right? And men are genetically designed to spread your seed, right? And that's we don't have to worry about like the whole 9-10 months germination period, like any of that, right? Doesn't put us, we're spread the seed. You can have as many kids as fucking humanly possible, right? And then women, they're the ones that have to have that. Like obviously you grow the baby, you develop the baby. It's 10 months out of your life for that. And then you're the one that has to protect that baby. So most people go back to like hypergamy, where women will have to find the best man that they can find to offer them protection, to offer them resources so that they can raise this baby, right? Whereas men can just kind of go out and spread their seed. And,
because that goes back to like tribal times, right? Where like they had to grow their tribe. And so
exactly. And generally
plant their seeds everywhere.
Generally guys were like, their husbands were gone, dead, or died trying to protect the tribe, right? And then,
so they had someone coming up after.
Always, right? So back to that whole thing, like society's obviously tried to ram that down everyone's throat that monogamy is the way to go. But if you look and like, if you really get into it with just the way nature is, and I always tell people too, like people forget that we're fucking we're animals, right? Like people forget we're animals. So we're just animals with their brains developed a little more than anything else. But we're still just a cluster of cells trying to fucking reproduce and create more and more. And so I guess to answer your question, probably not. But we've just been programmed so much, and generationally and society and everything else is programmed that way. And now I think with so many options, back in the day, you didn't, right? You'd go to your fucking like church fucking, what do they call those things? Not buffet, those like potlucks and shit like that. Like whatever, like that was the outing, right? Away from, if you didn't grow up in the city or town, like you're on the farm, like you don't get to see a lot of people. So you like your options are fucking limited, right? For everything, like music, it was the one fucking radio channel. TV was literally one channel or two channels, on and on and on. But like nowadays, like options are just ridiculous, and sex is so just like open, right? Like you just have it's available, it's easy. So I mean, before marriage was used to actually like have sex, right? So people get married young, and that was the gateway to have sex. Now it's like swipe left, right?
No idea.
Either way, you're swiping something, and that's your fucking gateway to have sex, right? You don't have to go through the whole marriage, the courting, all that stuff.
In fact, these days getting married, you don't have sex, right?
Well, yeah.
You're just trapped into. I don't know. I feel like this is another conversation.
Definitely off on a tangent, but yeah. Anyway, back to all that. Yeah,
that could. I mean, I think that there's multifacets, like, and different belief systems are going to play into many different things.
And religion's getting into that.
Yeah,
and now
exactly.
Religion's kind of taking a back seat in a lot of areas. So people are losing track of that a little bit, because that's what kept a lot of people on the straight and narrow, and almost like fear, right? You're scared, like, fuck, I don't want to go to hell, so I got to do this, right? So that kept a lot of people going, but now that's taking a back seat. So,
well, it didn't happen, or I'm just thinking too with couples where, well, it did happen, but you know, maybe he or she just pretended that, mostly she, I'm thinking of like old time movies, mostly she just pretended it didn't happen, right? Because
just easier, keep
the family together and whatever. But again, I think that's like a whole conversation for another day in the future.
Yeah, we can get on more about that. But,
I don't even know why I was asking you that, where that came from. I mean, the show, there's affairs, so there's that. But bringing it back around, one, I'll say we're not Will and Jada Pinkett Smith. So we are monogamous.
They touch on that though in that show, because their friends were like that, right?
Yeah, they talk all about it. Yeah, their friends had an open
to try to save a marriage, to try to do all these different things, and it's interesting.
Yeah. So just to be clear, we are monogamous, because I feel like Mike's answer was that he doesn't actually really think humans should be monogamous.
Oh yeah.
So are you living a lie then, Mike?
Oh God, my DMs are blowing up right now. Anyway, no.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to have a conversation. No, just kidding. I get it. Like you say, animals, species, right? Like it is interesting, right? Mm-hmm. I think though that then not being monogamous brings in a whole new level of complication and emotions. And that was kind of the thing I was going to say here. I made like just some notes on like points that I thought were interesting from that night. And I was like, there's a lot of codependency. There's a lot of generational trauma. There's a lot of trauma bonds. There's a lot of entanglement of emotions going on in that show, a lack of conversation. And then knowing, well, at the end, you'll realize the grass isn't always greener on the other side, right? But yeah, that show is just like a hurricane of emotions. And so again, lots of things to reflect on, kind of a great thing if you aren't already dealing with trauma in your relationship, a good thing to watch with your partner and just spark some deeper conversation, and then take personal responsibility so that you don't end up on that route. I feel like there was something else I was going to say, but I think actually just to kind of cap that part off, I was just going to say that you could not be monogamous. I mean, this topic wasn't meant to be about monogamy, but at the same time, there's very active ways that we talked about to keep that love and that lust and that excitement alive in a relationship with one person. So
absolutely. And it always, like for me, it always goes back to those polarity, right? And those roles and just that feminine and masculine, and you dance with it, you play with it, but you need those in it, or else it definitely will go to the wayside. Yeah. You've seen it. You go through ebbs and flows. Every relationship goes through ebbs and flows of that. But we all just get so comfortable in the day-to-day stuff. And then all of a sudden we're not comfortable and then don't know how to change it. Right. Oh, absolutely. And the last thing I wanted to say on that show is what really got me, and it comes back to my why, and always has been my why this whole time of any coaching we've done, is that they have a daughter who's 4. And so, I mean, Lennox is 4 and I was 3 when my parents divorced. So that age is just kind of like really ripe for me. So when she like said that she was taking off and she was leaving the daughter with dad, I was like crying. I was like, oh my God, that poor little girl. And I've done a lot of inner child work and a lot of healing, but I'm just like, I wish that parents could take care of their own shit so that they stop passing it on to their kids. Not to blame our parents or past parents, because I do believe we're all doing the best with the knowledge and, resources that are available. But at the same time, now, today, I just don't really feel like there's much of an excuse, because it's talked about everywhere. Like there's resources in many places. You could even just grab a book or search the internet and find out stuff, right, about how to heal certain things or how to begin a journey of dealing with things or have a conversation. Or reach out to Laura or myself. Or reach out to us or take Safe and Wild, because that's exactly what it's all about. Exactly. But yeah, for me, it's always been about the kids, because it's like, just imagine what those kids could go out and create if they didn't have to go through and unpack all of their childhood shit thrown on them by their parents who maybe weren't emotionally available, weren't emotionally intelligent, whatever, the list could go on and on, right? So for me, it's just, always about the kids, and my heart broke for that little girl, but I think it turns out good for her in the end. I don't really know. It's kind of a... Well, no, they do touch on, she's got some issues and... Oh yeah, that's right. And stuff like that, even just around possessions, and but again, it just hits home on a lot of bases. So yeah, and I mean, not to say that any kid is never going to have issues. I mean, Lennox is going to have some sort of issues, or well, maybe I wouldn't say issues, but like beliefs that he takes from us. That he's got some shit. Yeah. He's talking, he's going to go punch a bear in the face today. So I was like, well, buddy, you can't solve everything with punching things in the face. He'll bite your arm off. He says to everything. If the cops come, I'll punch him in the face. I'm like, yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. Yeah, you'll get 1 or 2 good ones in. They're going to take you away. But yeah, I mean, there's no way that our children aren't, going to have their own stuff. But at the same time, we can deal with our own shit, so we're not putting our shit on them, and then give them tools and awareness so that as shit happens or as they unveil their own shit, they know what to do with it. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just to button this up, that's what I talk so much about with a lot of the guys. It's just their kids, like whether it's a boy or a girl, like if it's your daughter, she'll realize what not to fucking put up with, or she can identify that right away and like realize that this is not how you fucking treat a woman. This is not how you have a relationship, and get the hell out of there. Or a guy, or like if it's your son, realize that you don't treat women that way, or well, you just don't, right? And then he can see that that's how a relationship goes. And if he sees his strong mom not putting up with that shit too, he realizes like, okay, strong women won't do that either. So it's just so much of that, right?
Well, just think about your own children and how empowering it would be to witness your parents have conversations and resolutions in front of you instead. So you actually learn skills through this observation and being in their environment, being in their energy, because they've done the work to learn how to properly express themselves and how to properly listen and resolve the conflict, versus only ever witnessing your parents either like numb out, not talk, blow up, separate, like whatever, right? So I just think it's really taking personal responsibility affects like so much more than yourself and your own quality of life. It's a trickle effect for everyone.
Okay. Well, should we wrap this up? Is there anything else you want to touch base on?
See if there's another point on here. No, I mean, again, this is other things that we can just talk about later down the road, but it was a really interesting show.
What's our rating system? 5 out of 5, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was moments I was mad. There was moments I didn't like one of the other one. And it's like, you just slapped that bitch in the face. Like, get your shit together.
I don't condone abuse, but hit that bitch.
And then there were other moments where I was like, oh my God, she needs like some love and she needs a hug. Like I was on an emotional roller coaster. Clearly the only reason I was able to stay awake, I just had probably chemicals blasting through my whole body of just like all the emotions. But yeah, definitely a 5 out of 5.
Deadly. Right on. Well, got to watch that thing. Awesome. Well, we'll leave it at that. And that was a great conversation. I love you.
I love you.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at LaRocque Life Podcast and online at LaRocqueLife.com. Ladies, find Laura on social media at Laura LaRocque and online at LauraLaRocque.com. Have a request for a show topic? We love that. Send us an email at michael@LaRocqueLife.com or DM at LaRocque Life Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.